This is step 10 in the 14 steps found in the art of storytelling. This one's called Research the Facts. I mentioned before that when I put the storytellers before the camera, I turned it on and then didn't turn it off. They just went from one step to the next until they came to step 10. At this point, I had them go to a side room where a computer was waiting for them. They could then research some of the facts in this story. While they were there, I put another storyteller here and we started the whole process over again. When the new storyteller got to step 10, I reversed places, and the first one came back and told some of the research, some of the facts that they found out. It's amazing how some of their research stays with them through the rest of the 14 steps. So let's join them now and see what did they come up with when they researched the facts with step 10.
Well, I just did some research on crabs because I don't really know anything about crabs. What I chose for my crabs for my story are blue crabs. They're apparently fairly common, especially on the eastern seaboard and around into the Gulf of Mexico. Variety of colors. Blue crab, a male blue crab would have blue claws. Female would have orange tips on her claws. They have a pair of claws and 4 pairs of legs. I learned that a male blue crab is called Jimmy, so I've got a name for my for my boy character now. And a female crab is one of 3 different names, but a mature female that has produced eggs is referred to as sook. Yeah, it's S-O-O-K, sook. So I've decided that I'm going to incorporate those 2 names or words into my story without really explaining them. Sure. I'm just going to call the boy Jimmy, and he will refer to his mother as Suki. Why not? So that I've been using a repeated phrase, "Oh, son of mine, son of mine." Instead, I'm going to have her say, "Oh, Jimmy, Jimmy, son of mine."
Good.
And then conversely, "Oh, Suki, Suki, mother of mine." So.
Some of the description of mice, it's got, I didn't know it has hairless tails. I guess I knew that, but I guess that'd be kind of an interesting thing. And also rounded snout and small and pointed snout and small rounded ears. They have very poor eyesight, so the fact that they're back in the hole, they don't rely on their eyesight much, but they have a great hearing and smell. They can smell food. So I think in my story I could have them smelling food off in the distance. But a cat has great hearing. They can actually hear a frequency that people can't hear, and it's the same frequency that mice make. And so they can actually hear mice when no one else can. And they're great at seeing. Where mice are kind of blind, cats can see in the dark. And also they're very, very quick in the way they respond. So a mouse is not. Mouse is a little slower, and so consequently, it makes mice more vulnerable. But it also forces them to adapt, which adapting is what this story is all about.
I must admit, the thought of researching facts on a story that has a gnat and a bull seemed a little silly to me. But I did it, and I realized that this is really an important part of any story. No matter how short, no matter how brief, research the story, you'll get some new insights. I learned that gnats usually go around in swarms that are called ghosts. And right away that made me wonder, why is there one single gnat in my story swarming off by himself? And so it kind of gave me new insights into the conceit of this character. And everything I read on gnats, every article I read seemed to end up saying, but the biggest thing, gnats are a nuisance. Then I got thinking about the bull, and I'm a big fan of professional bull riding, and so I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if this bull were the famous Bodacious, who has only been ridden 7 times to success? So I looked up on bulls, and I found that their horns can actually extend as much as 7 feet across. It's an enormous animal compared to this teensy little gnat. That the Longhorns, of course, are the most popular bull for the bull riding. And it got me thinking about, boy, Tough Hedeman probably felt pretty good knowing that he was the only person to ride that bull to 9.5 points. And I was trying to think of parallels between him and the attitude of this conceited little gnat getting in there. So the research I found is it's crucially important.
When I had mentioned before about it being a butcher from the early 1900s, I wanted to see what a butcher back in the 1900s really looked like. And I did have part of it down, the old white apron, but the pictures that I saw in images in Google not only included the white apron with blood stains all over it, but in one hand he had a bone saw, and in his pocket he had a skinning knife, and he also had a meat cleaver in his other hand. I also looked up the wooden bridge that I had him cross, because I had it in my mind, so I just put down old wooden bridge, and it came up with some images of old wooden bridges. And I think I might use this in the story, because as he's going across the wooden bridge, one of the slats is gone. And that's when he looks down and he sees, that image of the dog underneath him there. Images of hungry dog. And yes, I had the, I don't think I had any of these in the story, but I think I'm going to use some of them. The tongue hanging out, I think that's a great image of a dog who's hungry. A drool coming down his mouth. The puppy eyes, I think I had the puppy eyes in there that he used. Greedy. And it was the excessively desirous of acquiring or possessing, especially wishing to possess more than what one needs or deserves. That was our dog. And I started thinking about the word greedy more. I started going off on that. And I was saying about maybe entering those other characters into the story, and maybe the dog's name was Gus. So the animals would say, well, isn't he a greedy Gus? And that would be something I could repeat throughout the story.
And first off, I looked up the definition of miser. I thought, oh, it's a man that's stingy with money, won't spend a dime. But he's also known as mean-spirited. So that could give a whole different context to his character, his emotions in this story, I thought. And just an interesting little fact, $10 million worth of gold coins were found in California, February 2014, by a man and a wife just walking along the property with their dog. And there they found a tin can exposed. They opened it up full of coins, and then they dug more with a stick, mind you, not a backhoe, a stick. Come up with 7 more canisters gold coins worth $10 million. Woohoo! They said, woohoo! This gold was dated back to I think it was 1864 to into the 1870s. And gold and silver were the only things used for trade. Those paper money was not available, so it was very important. Those 1812, when I put this story, or I tried to set this story, gold was worth about $20 an ounce. So it was really quite valuable in those times. However, in 2010, an ounce of gold was worth $1,431.
First thing I did was to look up Aesop himself, and I had no idea that he was from ancient Greece before Christ, several centuries before Christ. So that kind of gave me a perspective, because I was worried I was setting it before Aesop, and I'm like, no, I'm not before Aesop. So, and also there's a word in the original story that I read, mattocks, which is like a pickaxe. I looked at some pictures, and it was used to break up hard ground, you know, that you couldn't get with a shovel, but something more like a pickaxe made. And I also looked at some pictures of the vineyard, so I kind of saw how the vines were between posts, and then there were wires or rope to support the vines. And they were usually planted in rows. I found that a good vineyard makes 4 bottles of wine a day in that time. And then I just, as I looked at the pictures, kind of tried to picture how the sons might have worked the field, and how would they dig in every patch of ground, and also how that might help the crops. And so after the father died, the sons continued to work the fields. But they remembered what the father said about that treasure. And so as they worked the fields, and they looked at those vines planted in straight rows, they thought about how they might map out different areas of the vineyard where they would search for the treasure, and how they would first dig between the vines that were already planted.